Welcome to The Explainer. Sometimes the biggest stories, they start with the smallest clues. Today, we're diving into one of those. We're going to see how one single piece of paper can unravel a family's epic, centuries-long saga. It's pretty amazing.
So let's start with a question that, honestly, I think a lot of us have probably asked ourselves about our own families. How does a story, your family's story, actually survive for hundreds of years?
Well, for one family, the Fields family, the answer started right here, with this kind of humble, homemade family history book from 1976. But don't let its looks fool you. This book is the result of a decades-long, painstaking quest by one woman, Ruth Fields Lewis, to piece together her family's past.
And get this, that whole massive quest, this entire book, it all started from this, a single, fragile, torn page from an old family Bible. Someone actually mailed this to the author. This one little piece of paper was the spark that lit the whole fire.
And the author, Ruth, she says it herself in the preface. She writes, starting with one page torn from the family Bible, it has grown gradually to this point. I mean, isn't that incredible? To think that this sprawling history connecting all these generations just grew from one piece of paper.
So, okay, how in the world do you go from one single page to a full family saga? Well, you have to put on your detective hat. You basically become a genealogical detective.
And this wasn't just about collecting family stories, Ruth Fields Lewis really dug into the hard evidence. I mean, she used a whole detective's toolkit. She was looking through old wills and deeds, poring over dusty census records, checking tax lists. She was literally following the paper trail wherever it led, from tiny local courthouses all the way to the National Archives.
Her whole method was like putting together a giant jigsaw puzzle, but where the pieces are from different boxes and separated by decades. Like, she had to somehow connect this handwritten land grant from way back in 1778 to a census record from 1850, all to build one single coherent story.
But she was also really honest about the fact that this wasn't easy and her work wasn't perfect. She wrote that the book is far from complete and that there are probably errors and that so many family members are still unidentified. It's not a fairy tale with a perfect ending. It's a real work in progress. And honestly, that's the reality of digging into the past, right?
Okay, so let's get into what she found, because all of that detective work, it uncovered something truly epic, a story of migration and identity that really mirrors the American experience itself.
And believe it or not, the investigation didn't stop in America. The trail for the Fields name goes way back. It's thought to be of Norman origin, arriving in England with William the Conqueror's invasion way back in 1066. Think about that for a second. All of a sudden, this family story from Kentucky and Tennessee is connected to 1,000 years of European history.
And this side-by-side really captures that huge timeline perfectly. On the one hand, you've got the old, traditional Fields coat of arms, this symbol of an ancient, almost mythic past. And then on the other, you have the real, lived reality, a family celebrating a 50th wedding anniversary in 1926. It's the whole journey, right there, from a historical legacy to a modern American family.
And that coat of arms? It even came with a core value baked right in. The family motto was Sans Dieu rien. That's French for, without God, nothing. It is a statement of principle that got passed down right alongside the family name itself.
Now, the family's American story is a classic tale of westward expansion. It starts in Virginia, way back in 1621. From there, each generation pushed a little further west, first to North Carolina, then to Tennessee, and then eventually their kids and grandkids pushed into Kentucky, Indiana, and even beyond. So you see, this isn't just one family's history, it's kind of the story of America's own expansion.
And that's the thing. The family's story isn't just happening alongside American history, it's woven right into the fabric of it. One of the key ancestors, a man named Nathaniel Field, actually served as a captain in the American Revolution. He was there, planting the family's roots deep in the founding of the nation.
So that's the big picture. But what was life actually like for these families pushing west? The research gives us a really fascinating and sometimes very difficult look into the realities of life on the frontier.
I mean, it's really hard to imagine today. The book describes the pure courage and determination it took to just sell everything you owned, pack up, and set out by covered wagon or even just a pack horse. They were traveling with only what they could carry, all of it driven by that powerful dream of owning their own land.
And when they finally got to where they were going, they had to build new lives completely from scratch. They established homesteads, farms, whole communities, really. And pictures like this one, a family gathering in Missouri, they just show you how absolutely vital those community and family ties were. That was your survival network out on the frontier.
But the records also reveal a much more difficult part of their history. An 1837 will, for example, is very stark. It details the family's ownership of 3 slaves, John Henry, Nellie, and Martha. And it's an unflinching reminder that these historical records preserve the names not only of the pioneers, but also of the enslaved people whose lives were so tragically bound to theirs.
And another record, this one from 1859, is just as revealing. It states that the estate of one family member, Elizabeth Fields, consisted of little more than slaves and money. It's a difficult but essential truth. It shows just how deeply the economics of slavery were woven into the family's wealth, and it's a critical part of their full, unvarnished story.
And all of this, the good and the difficult, brings us to what the author's ultimate goal really was. See, this book was never meant to be the final word. It was created to be a beginning, an unfinished legacy.
Her dedication page makes this crystal clear. She writes, "To my family, this volume is lovingly dedicated with the hope that they will continue to record family data for a second volume." It's not just a dedication. It's a direct call to action. She's literally passing the torch, asking future generations to keep up the detective work.
And she ends with this really profound idea that all of this history is a gift. She says, "From God through ancestors, famed and obscure, we received the gift of life, a heritage we hold in trust." So in her view, it's this powerful connection that binds everyone in the family, whether they were famous or totally unknown, and it's a legacy that needs to be cared for and passed on.
Which, leaves us with one last thought to chew on. What stories, what incredible journeys, what forgotten clues are waiting in your family's past? Because if this saga shows us anything, it's that sometimes a whole world of history can be unlocked from just a single clue.